Brick. Brick is a type of block that is used to build walls, pavements, and other elements in masonry construction. They are laid in courses or numerous patterns known as bonds, and collectively we call it as a brickwork. And they may be laid in various kinds of mortar like lime mortar, cement mortar, etc. to hold the bricks together to make a durable structure. Now let's see some 25 important questions that will come under brick masonry, and those will be useful in various examinations. Now let's get into it. First question. Why are bricks soaked in water before using the brick masonry? Usually the bricks are soaked in water for 24 hours. But why? What is the reason? Our options are option A for removing dust, option B for reducing air voids, option C for preventing depletion of moisture from water, option D for reducing efflorescence. Just think for 10 seconds and give the correct answer. Here we go. The correct option is option C. That is, for preventing depletion of moisture from mortar, we are soaking the bricks for about 24 hours before using in a brickwork or brick masonry work. Let's see some more points in this topic, efflorescence. Dry bricks, if used, that is, if we do not soak those bricks in water, that will absorb water from mortar, which cause depletion of moisture from mortar. So we have to soak the bricks before using it brick masonry, and that water should be alkali free. Thereby we can prevent the efflorescence, those complications and all. Mortar will become dry. If we use dry bricks, water from mortar will be absorbed by the bricks. So therefore attaining less strength. A good brick must not absorb water more than 20% by the weight. So if it absorbs more than 20%, it means that the brick is highly porous. So a good brick does not absorb water more than 20%. So this is the first question. Now let's see second question. Percentage of alumina in good brick earth lies between. There are some components used in brick. There are These are silica, alumina, lime, iron oxide, magnesia, and some other negligible amounts of alkalis or etc. Alkalis are undesirable, but if it is present, that should be negligible. So now percentage of alumina in good brick earth. Option A 5 to 10%, option B 20 to 30, option C 50 to 60, option D 70 to 80. Your time starts now. The correct option is option B 20 to 30%. So alumina is to be present around 20 to 30%. And what about other components? Let's see those. Silica is the major component and that is present for about 50 to 60%. And alumina is the second major component that is present for about 20 to 30%. Lime, some 2 to 5%. Oxides of iron, 5 to 6%. Magnesia is less than 1%. So these are the some important components present in a brick or brick earth material, we can say like this. And some other undesirable components like alkalis and some oxides of sulfur, those has to be negligible or 0%. Now let's move on to third one. A king closure area. What is a king closure? It's a type of joint we have to make use of it. So here we can see the diagram of king closure. It's a beveled closure. It is called as metered closure. So a king closure is option A, full brick. A king closure is full brick or 7 by 8 of a brick or longitudinally half of brick or crosswise half of brick. You can refer this diagram and give the correct answer. The correct answer is option B, 7 by 8 of a brick. That is half of the header. This is the half of the header. This is the half of the stretcher. So this, if we remove this part, that will be around 1 by 8 of a brick. So how much is left? 7 by 8. So 7 by 8 is left. A king closure is nothing but 7 by 8 of a brick. Now let's see some more important points. A king closure is nothing but longitudinally half brick. So let's see the diagram. If it is the brick, so what is the queen closure? It is the longitudinally half brick. It is a queen closure. And what is half bat? Half bat means this is the half bat. This part is the half bat. And others are meter closure, bat, beveled. Beveled is nothing but here we can see the bevel closure. This is the metered closure. This depends on the angle made with the stretcher end. So these are about some of the closures we are using in a brick masonry or brickwork. Now let's move on to fourth question. At a T junction between 1.5 brick wall and one brick wall, one can use option A, half queen closure in each course. What is the closure brick we have to use while using T junction between 1.5 brick wall and a one brick wall? Option B, half queen closure in every alternate course. Option C, 3/4 bat in each course. Option D, half bat in every alternate course. We know that what is half queen, what is bat, and what is 3/4 bat, and what is half bat. Now guess the answer. Think for 10 seconds. Here we go. The correct option is option B, that is half queen closure in every alternate course. In every alternate course, that is this alternate one, this alternate one, this one. So for every alternate course, we have to use the queen closure. So this is the correct answer. Let's see some other points. Okay. Here is the diagram. You can visualize what is the half queen closure in every alternate course. So this is the queen half queen closure, and this is the T junction. We can say this is the T junction, and this is the 1.5 brick wall, and this is the one brick wall. This is the one brick wall. This is the 1.5 brick wall, and in a T junction between them, we are using one half queen closure. Sorry, a half queen closure in every alternate course. So this is how we can visualize it. Now let's move on to fifth question. The maximum slenderness ratio for load-bearing masonry wall built in cement mortar as per IS 1905 shall not exceed. So this is a codal provision they are asked. They have asked a maximum slenderness ratio. Option A 13, option B 20, option C 30, option D 27. The answer is Option D 27. So this is as per the IS code 1905 masonry construction. So let's see some other points based on mortar. So for lime mortar, it is less than cement mortar. How much? For lime mortar, slenderness ratio is 20, and for cement mortar, it is 27. So this is how we are using the slenderness ratio by referring the IS code. And how this slenderness ratio is calculated? It is actually nothing but height of a wall divided by thickness into one factor called Kn. This can be found in this codal provision, or L by T. L is nothing but the length. So where Kn is nothing but stiffening coefficient that we can find in the IS 1905. So either this ratio h by t into Kn or L by T, where L is nothing but the length, effective length of wall, h is effective thickness, sorry, T is effective thickness, h is height of wall, and Kn is stiffening coefficient. So by calculating this ratio, whichever is the minimum value, we can uh, we can set we can say those as slenderness ratio. So it will be it should be as per 27. Sorry, it should be 27 as per the IS code. For what? For cement mortar it is 27. For lime mortar it is 20. Now let's move on to sixth question. Refractory bricks resist what? Option A high temperature, option B chemical reaction, option C dampness, option D all of the things. So what is a refractory brick? It is usually used in a kiln. Whenever a high amount of heat or something is there, we use refractory bricks. And what about chemical reaction and dampness? Just think about it for 10 seconds. What is the answer? The correct option is option D, all of the above. So refractory bricks can resist high temperature, chemical reaction, dampness. So we are using refractory bricks using a lining of furnaces where furnaces are subjected to very high temperature. Compressive strength of a refractory brick shall be 200 to 220 Newton per mm square, and the water absorption shall not be greater than 10% and it should be around 5 to 10%, unlike ordinary brick. For ordinary brick it should be less than 20%, but for refractory bricks it shall be 5 to 10%. Other types of bricks, other types of refractory bricks are acid, basic, neutral. So we are using three types of refractory bricks uh, in a market. Chrome bricks resist corrosive action of slags and grasses, and it's a one type of refractory brick, and that is useful to resist corrosive action of slags and gases. This is nothing but the chrome bricks. Now let's see seventh question. In brick masonry, mortar strength should match brick strength, or mortar strength shall be greater than brick strength, or brick strength shall be greater than mortar strength, or it is independent of strengths of both, whichever is the uh, answer. So what is the correct option? The correct option is option A, equal strength. Why? Because it is uh, it is ambiguous that if we use mortar strength greater than brick strength or brick strength greater than mortar strength means it will be something like ambiguity. It's no meaning. There is no meaning of using variable strength. it should be optimum. That is, mortar strength shall be equal to brick strength. So both the strengths should be equal. Units crush earlier than mortar. Whenever we use mortar strength greater than brick strength, then units of brick will crush earlier than mortar. Weak mortar means it will be a waste of money because brick strength is already high, and if we use weak mortar, that will be a waste of money. So therefore, optimum strength, that is equal strength, has to be maintained in a brick masonry. Now let's move on to eighth question. Stages in manufacture of bricks. What are these basic stages we are supposed to use during the manufacture of bricks? You can refer this flowchart and answer the correct option. Option A, this one, option B, or option C, or option D. Just refer this flowchart and match with the correct option. So you have found the correct option, I think. Option D, unsoiling, digging, cleaning, and then weathering, blending, tempering, molding, drying. At the last, we have to burn. So you can refer this flowchart as well. So what is the preliminary thing before preparing this brick? Topsoil of about 200 has to be removed because topsoil has some impurities. So we have to remove those things for about 200 deep. A molder can mold 750 bricks per day. It is a general thing. A molder can mold 750 bricks per day. In table molding, the size of table is 2 meter across, 1 meter across, 0.7 meter. These are some general things we have to be aware of. So topsoil of about 200 has to be removed. Molder can mold 750 bricks per day. Table molding size is this. So this is the manufacturing stages involved during brick manufacture. Now let's move on to ninth one. The position of neutral axis in reinforced brick masonry is independent of loading and it's at a depth of. So neutral axis position is independent of loading. They have given some information and we are supposed to answer what is the position of that neutral axis. Option A, it shall be 1/3 of effective depth, or it shall be half of effective depth, or full depth, or 0.70 times the effective depth. What is 0.707? It's nothing but 1 by root 2. 1 by root 2 is the 0.707. So give the correct option. The correct option is option A, that is 1/3 of the effective depth. 1/3 of the effective depth is the correct option. What are the other things we have to learn? It should be capable of resisting compressive shear stress as well tensile stresses. What is that? Reinforced. For reinforced brickwork, it should resist both compressive stress as well as tensile stress because we are inducing steel material between the brick work. So it is expected to resist compression and tension. Mortar cover of 15 centimeter to 25 centimeter shall be used. These are some provisions we have to adopt so that reinforced brick masonry is fully constructed. Reinforced brick masonry is cheaper than reinforced cement concrete. So it is cheaper than RCC. Higher ductility and stiffness. It is obvious because we are using steel as a reinforcement material. So there will be some high ductility and also stiffness. To achieve unusual shapes and bold patterns, we are using reinforced brick masonry. Unusual shapes and bold patterns refers to what? Some ornamental, or we can say any shape that we can achieve. A plaster of minimum thickness 15 mm. So mortar thickness 15 centimeter to 25 centimeter, and plaster thickness shall be minimum 15 mm while we are using reinforced brick masonry to avoid corrosion or something like that. Now let's move on to 10th one. 10th question. As per IS code, stiffness coefficient of walls stiffened by piers, buttresses or intersecting walls is. So this is the table we can find in the IS code, and question is asked based on this table. Refer this table and give the correct option. Option A 0 to 1, option B 1 to 2, option C greater than 2, option D invariantly 1. So the correct option is option B 1 to 2, because you can see here. So here is the 1 and maximum value 2 is here. Maximum value 2 is here. So it stiffness coefficient of walls stiffened by these piers, buttresses or intersecting walls ranges from 1 to 2. Now let's see some other important points. Stiffness coefficient depends on the ratio of center to center spacing of intersecting wall and pier width in the direction of wall. So this is how stiffness coefficient will vary. That depends on center to center spacing of intersecting wall and pier width in the direction of wall. It also depends on ratio of thickness of pier to actual thickness of wall proper. So what is the thickness of pier? It is nothing but it is denoted by TP. TP here. Here they have mentioned that TP, and thickness of wall is TW, and what else? SP is the center to center spacing, and WP is nothing but pier width. Pier width we have seen here. So this is how stiffness coefficient varies. So it ranges from 1 to 2. Now let's move on to 11th question. Earthquake proofing in masonry walls is done by providing. So how we are providing earthquake proof in a masonry wall. In this diagram, it's clearly mentioned that how we are how we have provide the earthquake proof in a masonry building. Option A cross walls. Option B less openings. Option C by providing underreamed piles. Option D by providing a steel band at corners above windows below ceiling. So refer this diagram, you can get the answer. So option is D. You can see here, this is the one lintel band. They have clearly mentioned here. So this is one of the steel band that we are providing to resist earthquake or lateral loads. We can provide shear wall as well to resist earthquake loadings, and horizontal runner called band, that is nothing but the steel band at corners above the windows below the ceiling. So it is the window actually. We can consider this as a window, and this steel band, that is a lintel band, is constructed above this window but below the ceiling. And some other types of steel band are roof band, lintel band. Here you can see the roof band as well. Roof band. This is the lintel band. This is the gable band. And plinth band near the plinth wall. So this is how we can tie up a building to resist earthquake loading, or we can say lateral loadings. Now let's move on to 12th question. 12th question is, which type of brick masonry bond? Type of bond they are asking. It's provided for heavy loads in masonry. There are many types of bonds like English bond, Flemish bond, double Flemish, single Flemish, and so on. Which is that bond to take care of heavy loads? Option A, English bond. Option B, zigzag bond. Option C, single Flemish. Option D, double Flemish. Your time starts now. So correct answer is English bond. English bond is the one which is used to resist heavy loads. And we can see the functions of other type of bonds. English is the strongest bond. Double Flemish is used for aesthetic appearance. Single Flemish strength will be as same as that of English bond, and appearance shall be as same as that of double Flemish bond. So single Flemish bond we can achieve two things, English bond as well as double Flemish bond. But strongest is the English bond, but we cannot say a single Flemish bond as strongest one. Strength is as like as English bond, and appearance will be as like as double Flemish bond. When we use zigzag bonding is used in for ornamental panels in brick flooring. So in brick flooring we are using zigzag bond. Now let's move on to 13th one. When the deposit of efflorescence is greater than 10 percentage but less than 50 percentage. So they have given a range of about 10 to 50 percentage efflorescence deposit of the exposed area of the brick. Then it can be said as option A, moderate, heavy, option C, slight, option D, serious. What we can name those range of efflorescence? Options A, moderate, heavy, slight, serious. So the answer is moderate. So if the efflorescence deposit is lies between 10 percentage and 50 percentage, we can set that efflorescence as moderate. So when we can say an efflorescence is slight or heavy or serious, let's see that. We can say an efflorescence deposit as slight when it is about less than 10 percentage. We can say heavy or high when it is greater than 50 percentage, and serious when greater than 50 percentage, and it will cause powdering or flaking of exposed surface. So if it causes powdering as well as the efflorescence percentage is more than 50, then we can call it as serious one. So moderate 10 to 50 percentage. No matter in any wall, it shall be greater than 50 percentage. It should be slight or moderate is accepted. Now let's move on to 14th one. The function of coping is to serve as a. So this is the coping one. You can see here. So what is the function it is serving? Option A, ornamental chords between lintel level and roof level. Option B, projection from a wall to support a structural member. Option C, covering to wall to drain water. Option D, shade against sun or solar radiation. What is the correct option? What is the correct function which the coping is serving? Here we go. The correct option is C. To throw off water, that is to drain water, we are using coping. To prevent seepage through joints, its special function is to prevent the seepage through joints. So this is the joint we can consider. So to prevent water draining off through seepage, we are using this coping. It may be of concrete, or it can be of stone, brick, or it can be of terracotta materials. It should project. This is the projection. That projection shall be at least 40 mm projection on both the sides. So projection shall be at least 40 mm from both the sides of wall. So this is the coping function to drain the water and to prevent the seepage through joints. Now let's move on to 15th question. For a good bonding, what is the criteria? All bricks need not be in uniform size. Bats must be used in alternate cores only. The vertical joints in alternate cores should fall in plumb. Cement mortar used must have Surki as additive. So what is the correct option you think for a good bonding? Whether all bricks need not be in uniform in size, bats must be used in alternate cores only, vertical joints in alternate cores should fall in plumb, or cement mortar used should have Surki as additive. So the correct option is option C, that is vertical joints in alternate cores should fall in plumb. So this is the correct option. So what are the other things for a good bonding? We shall see now. A lap should be 1 by 4th brick along the length of wall and half brick across the thickness of wall. So these are some note points we have to consider while going for a good bonding of a brick work. So lap shall be 1 by 4th brick along the length of wall and half brick across the thickness. And bricks should be of uniform in size. There should be no variation in size of the bricks used in a wall construction. Structures used in the phasing only, not in uh, any other one. So structures has to be used in the phasing alone. Bats has to be used only under special circumstances because bat has less strength and bonding will be unlikely more because bats has some negative property, so it has to be used only for special circumstances. Instead we can use some king closure, queen closure, queen, like that. Vertical joints in alternate courses like vertical above each other. So this is the correct option, option C. For a good bonding, vertical joints in alternate cores should fall in plumb. Now let's see the, before moving to next question, just refer this diagram that will help you to answer the next question. Edge of a brick is. If you observe that diagram in the 15th question, you can answer this in a flash. Option A, Aris. Option B, Splace. Option C, Quan. Option D, Perpen. Your time starts now. So the answer is Aris. Aris is nothing but the edge of a brick. What are the other things covered in a brick? Splace is nothing but plinth. Plinth of a wall, we call those as the place. What is quant? Quants are corner ones, and these can be placed in right angles mostly, and it can be greater than 90° also. Mostly it is 90° only. Mostly it is 90° only, and it can be placed in more than 90° also. What is frog? Frogs are nothing but impression or indentation produced in a top of the brick. So frog is absent in wire cut bricks, and two frogs are made in a pressed bricks, and only one frog is provided in handmade brick. So these are the considerations for frogs. What is racking back? Racking back is nothing but termination of wall in stepped fashion. Whenever a wall is terminated in a stepped fashion like this, we call it as racking back. Other some terms are toothing, perpend. Perpend is nothing but we can see in the last uh, picture, that is perpend is like this appearance we can see. This is the perpend one. And what is kick? Kick is nothing but frog. Frog is kick. Other name of frog is kick. So edge of brick, arris. Place, plinth. Quants, corners. Racking back, stepped fashion. Others are toothing, perpend, rack, etc. Now let's move on to next question. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the composition of good brick earth? About 25% of alumina in brick earth imparts the plasticity necessary for molding bricks. Option B, iron pyrite, the form of the bricks at high temperature. Option C, presence of weeds makes the bricks unsound. Option D, both. Option A and C. Which is the correct option? So the answer is both option A and C. So about 25% of alumina in brick earth imparts the plasticity necessary for molding bricks. Whenever we knead the brick and mold in a mold pattern, we need at least about 25% of alumina, which is used to impart plasticity so that we can mold in a required shape. Presence of weeds makes the bricks unsound, meaning weed is nothing but some vegetation. So presence of those vegetation or organic materials will make a brick unsound. What are the other components and its functions? Silica. Silica imparts uniform shape. Silica is nothing but sand only, right? It imparts the uniform shape. Iron pyrite. Iron pyrite will cause disintegration during burning. So iron pyrite must be negligible in percentage. Vegetation will cause porous bricks and evolution of some gases involved in the reaction. Alumina imparts plasticity as we have seen. Lime gives lower fusion temperature so that it prevents shrinkage. So these are the some important components and their functions. Now let's move on to 18th question. And before moving on to 18th question, let's see this diagram. And we have already seen the percentage of the components or composition of good briquette in previous question. Just revise it now. Silica for 50 to 60 percentage, alumina 20 to 30, and lime 2 to 5, iron oxide less than 7, magnesia less than 1. Now let's move on to 18th question. Match the following: pugmill, pluck and feathers, leaves, gelignite. What is pugmill? This diagram represents pugmill and plug and feathers. There is no diagram for plug and feathers. Uh, this is the gelignite. This is the leaves. Leaves is nothing but, okay, let's see the answer and get into it. This is the plug and feathers. See the options and give the correct option. So the correct option is option C, that is 4321. That is in a reverse order. Pug mill is used for tempering. What is pug mill is doing? It is nothing but it's kneading the brick earth material and then tempering into a shape, into a perfect composition and giving a shape. Plug and feathers has some function, that is splitting. So splitting the brick, or we can say breaking the brick into parts so that we can fetch the bat, quon, etc. Bat and quon, that brick parts we can get from this plug or feathers. What is levis? Levis is the lifting material. So in order to lift some heavy bricks, we are using this component called levis. Gelignite is nothing but blasting material. It is as like as dynamite. Unlike some dynamite. Dynamite causes blasting only, but it is different from gelignite. Gelignite is used for blasting purposes in brick manufacture. Now let's see some more important points. Pugging means nothing but grinding clay with water and making it plastic so that we can temper. Gelignite is an explosive material. Can be used underwater is the specific reason to use gelignite. We cannot use dynamite underwater. So gelignite is an explosive material, pugging, grinding clay with water and making it plastic. So option is C, that is pug mill, tempering. Plug and feathers, splitting. Levis, lifting, and gelignite, blasting. Now let's move on to 19th one. Minimum compressive strength of first class brick. It's a basic and important question we have to be aware of. Option A 5 megapascal or Newton per mm square. Option B 10. Option C 7.5. Option D 9 and Newton per mm square. So the correct option is 10 Newton per mm square for first class brick. And what is the case when we use second class brick and other third class brick? For second class, it shall be greater than 7.5 Newton per mm square. For third class brick, it shall be 3.5. So 7.5, 3.5. How we have to test for compression? Place the specimen with flat surface, flat faces horizontal. This is the flat face, and it shall be kept horizontal and mortar filled face facing upwards. If at all we are using mortar, that has to be facing upwards between plates of testing machine. So between the plates of testing machine, what is the rate of load? We have to give 14 Newton per mm square. It's the rate of loading we have to give in a testing machine, in a compressive testing machine. Now let's move on to 20th one. The temperature at which the bricks are burnt in kiln varies from. So kiln is uh, a mechanical device in which we are burning a brick at high temperature. To resist that high temperature, we are using refractory bricks, as we have seen in previous question. Now let's see the options, which is the correct one. 500 to 800 degrees Celsius, 800 to 1000 degrees Celsius, 1000 to 1200 degrees Celsius, or 1200 to 1500 degrees Celsius, which is the correct one. Uh, the temperature at which the bricks are burnt in kiln. So the option is option C, 1000 to 1200 degrees Celsius, the temperature at which the bricks are burnt. or we can see in degree Fahrenheit 1830 to 2190. There are two types of brick kilns. It is intermittent and continuous, and it also has some branches. Let's see those all. In intermittent kilns, we can use without chimney and with chimney. In continuous, there is some moving fire kilns, moving ware kilns, and among this we have some other types: clamp, scotch, down rot, climbing, half-man kilns. What is a half-man kiln? Half-man kiln is a moving fire kiln, and it is continuous. Half-man kiln is a continuous continuous kiln. Half-man kiln is the continuous kiln. Fixed chimney bull strength. Bull strength is also continuous and moving fire. So these two are some specific kilns we can expect in a objective type question. Now let's move on to 21. It is based on different tests on bricks. Match these following. Absorption, hardness, soundness, and structure has to be matched with this column. Option A, option B, option C, option D. What is the correct option? It is obvious that you can see column 1 with respect to column 2. You can identify the answer. Correct option is option C, A4, B3, C2, D1. Absorption is nothing but this is a test which we do in this respective manner. Difference in weight between bricks when immersed in water for 24 hours and its dry weight. For hardness, we scratch the bricks so that any indentation occurs or not. What is soundness? Soundness is nothing but a ringing sound when two bricks are struck. What is structure? Structure is nothing but how far the composition is controlled in a brick. So a brick is broken and we can test the brick. Some other points to study the correctness of a brick. The size, the standard size shall be 19 cross 9 cross 9 centimeter. This is a standard size of a brick. This is the traditional size we are using in India. 9-inch cross, 4.5-inch cross, 3-inch. And the color of brick has to be bright and uniform. It should not be dark or burnt or underburnt. Nothing like those things. It should be bright and uniform. It should be alkali free so that there is no efflorescence. So these are the some different type test on bricks. Now let's move on to 22. For ornamental work, types of bricks preferred are option A, silica bricks, option B, silica lime bricks, option C, autoclave made bricks, bricks made in autoclave. Option D, A and C, silica also autoclave. What is the correct option? So the answer is option D, both silica made bricks, also the autoclave made bricks, bricks made in autoclave method. For ornamental work, if we say, it means that building facades, like this diagram, we can see this building face of the building or elevation of building, we can use ornamental type of bricks. What is a blue brick? Blue brick is nothing but it is a brick used in heavy constructions like bridge. Blue brick will be uh, like a blue color only. Okay, like this only the brick will be. Perforated brick means it shall be used in multi-story framework because perforated brick has some light weight. So we can use multi-story framework as well. So these are some types of bricks we are using. For ornamental work, we can use either silica bricks or bricks made in autoclave method. Now let's move on to 23. Modular bricks are of nominal size 20 cross 10 cross 10 centimeter. This question is something like a problematic and a solve question, and 20% of volume is lost in mortar. So nominal size they have given and volume lost in mortar they have given as 20%. Then what is the number of bricks required per cubic meter of brickwork? We have to calculate some of the things to achieve the answer or to achieve number of bricks required per cubic meter. Just think for 10 seconds and give the correct option. Option A 520 number of bricks, option B 500, option C 485, option D 470. It's a small calculation we have to do so that we can get the required number of bricks per meter cube. So number of bricks required for this question is 470. How it is arrived? Let's see that. Actual size of brick is 19 cross 9 cross 9 centimeter that we have already seen. Mortar required per meter cube is calculated as 0.2305. How it is calculated? 1 minus the actual size divided by nominal size If we calculate this, we can get 0.2035 meter cube as mortar required per meter cube. Volume of set mortar, because 20% of volume is lost, right? So we have to multiply or we have to add the 20% so that we can get the volume of set mortar. So 1.2 times the mortar required per meter cube so that we can compensate the losses. So 1.2 into 0.2035, sorry 2305, will get the answer as 0.2766 meter cube. So what is the actual volume of bricks? If this is the volume of mortar, and what is the actual volume of bricks per meter cube? It is nothing but 1 minus 0.2766. That will give as answer as 0.7234. So what is the number of bricks required? 0.7234 meter cube divided by a size of brick, one size of brick, one actual size of brick, not the nominal size. It shall be actual size, because in nominal size we are measuring with the mortar. Nominal size means this 20 into 10 into 10 means with mortar. So if we are supposed to calculate number of bricks alone, we have to use actual size of a brick, of a raw brick without mortar. So 0.7234 divided by 19 cross 9 cross 9 with respect to unit centimeter or meter cube, like that. So we can arrive the answer as 470. 470 number of bricks are required per cubic meter of this brickwork. Now let's move on to 24th question. As per IS code, dispersion angle of concentrated load shall be taken as. So this is the dispersion angle. What is that angle has to be taken in a brickwork or brick masonry? Option A 30 degrees, option B 40 degrees, option C 45 degrees, option D 60 degrees. Your time starts now. Correct option is option A 30 degrees. I think you may have guessed a 45-degree as answer, but this is not correct, because in general or in practical cases this comes around 30-degree only. 45-degree is meant for foundation dispersion only. In brick masonry, the dispersion angle is 30-degree as per the IS code. The angle of distribution for axial loads not exceeding 30 degree is more realistic. So we are adopting 30-degree angle of dispersion of a concentrated load for masonry calculation, masonry construction. Now let's move on to the last question, 25. Average weight of a brick. It's the simplest question of all. Option A 4 to 5 kg, option B 2 to 3 kg, option C 3 to 3.5 kg, option D 4 to 4.5 kg. What is the correct one? Your time starts now. So the average weight of a brick is nothing but 3 to 3.5 kg. So how it is arrived? Because for a meter cube of brick earth, it weighs 1800 kg. So 1 meter cube of brick earth weighs 1800 kg means one brick will weigh how much? 3 to 3.5 kg, because a brick has nominal size of actual size of 19 cross 9 cross 9 centimeter. By calculating that, by using that size, we can arrive the average weight of a brick as 3 to 3.5 kg. Now this is the last question. We are at the end of the video. If you like this video, like, comment, share to your friends. Thank you. Let's see another building material in upcoming video. Thank you.